All right, guys, welcome to the video. Few days late after Arthur's skill was released. Just been busy this weekend. Also, his kit is a little bit more complex than some of the other ones, so I wanted to take some time to kind of process it. Obviously, at this point, a lot of content creators have made videos talking about Arthur, so I'm not going to read out his skills, and I'm going to try to minimize the amount of things I say that overlap with what other people are saying, right? Because if you've already seen it in multiple videos, you don't need to hear it again. So obviously, we're going to talk about Arthur. Specifically, we're going to talk about combo damage. Why, all things being equal, combo damage is actually better than Smite and skill damage, and we'll go over why. And then we'll cover something. I don't know if anyone else has talked about this. What like clearly is the best march in the game, right? So we'll cover all of those things. Oh, by the way, if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to the video. It helps a lot. I don't usually remember to ask or mention this towards the beginning of the video, but please do if you haven't. It really helps out the channel. All right, so starting out, before we cover any of these damage stuff, we'll just quickly go over how damage factor works and what's white damage, right? So whenever you are connecting with another target, right, every second, right, essentially every second you'll get a turn and there's a white damage. The white damage you actually see on the screen is about 400 damage factor. The reason why it's about 400 damage factor is because really what's happening, and you can open up the reports to see this, is that your side will launch a basic attack and the other side will launch a counter attack back. Then the other side will launch a basic attack and then you'll do a counter attack. Sometimes the counter attack is above, right? Like whether it's a commander's kit or maybe you're getting it from equipment, maybe you're even getting it from armaments. It might be a little bit higher than the 200 damage factor, but basic attack is 200 damage factor, right? So, you know, usually you're not getting too much counterattack anyway. So just to make it simple, we say usually a white damage is about 400 damage factor. So if you, for example, see a commander with a 4,000 damage factor, which doesn't exist in the game, right? You should expect that 4,000 damage factor, whether it's skill damage, smite damage, or combo attack, without any like increase to skill damage, right, without any additional boost, will be about 10x whatever the normal white damage is. Okay, so it's important to understand that, because whether it's skill damage, smite damage, or combo damage, essentially it's just going to be scaling off of that base like white damage number, right? So if you have more attack, your base white damage number is going to be higher, right? It's still going to be 400 damage factor, but 400 damage factor relative to the stats that you're contributing to that white damage. Now, skill damage, right, a lot of times we call it direct damage. So that could be instant proc. That could be, so far in the game, it's additional damage, right? Kind of like a damage over time for the next like X seconds. Skill damage is only increased further by increases to skill damage, right? So if you look at like Nevsky's skill, where you get an increase in skill damage, up to 60% for the secondary commander, it'll increase the skill damage, but it's not going to touch the white damage, right? Smite damage is better than skill damage because, one, if you look at the kits of a lot of commanders and even like the support tree and the different trees, there's inherently a lot more built-in skill damage mitigation. But two, also, smite damage doesn't increase from skill damage boost, it increases from normal damage boost. Right, so when you boost normal damage is basic attack and counter attack, right? Not only does your white damage go up, but your smite damage also goes up proportionately, right? So for example, if you have a skill damage commander that's doing 2000 damage factor and a smite damage commander that's doing 2000 damage factor, and the smite damage commander is getting a 20% normal damage boost, the skill damage commander is getting a 20% skill damage boost, all things being equal like that, the smite is going to do way better, right? Because not only is the white damage getting increased, but also there's less resistance to smite or normal damage based on commanders kits and just the trees that are available right now. And even though the number is the same, right, 2000 and 2000, the smite damage would do more damage. One of the reasons why when people look at Luce's 22, I think it's 2250 5 target, right, they just think 2250, but they're still comparing it to like skill damage, like, oh, Ragnar's like 22,000 and then 400 whatever 400 additional damage, right? It's actually not apples to apples comparison. The nature of the smite and skill damage is different. Okay, now combo attack is a newer thing. I guess technically it was introduced when Lucia was introduced, right? But if you guys remember Lucia's kit when he was first released, right, his expertise just says he'll launch an extra basic attack or an extra normal attack or something like that, an extra attack, right? And then over time, I think they actually specified it where it's going to be an extra basic attack. Then they further refined the kit to call it a combo attack. And then we actually look, I'll pull up his expertise here, right? On the screen here, now it says, right, not only does it, when you launch a basic attack, there's a 25% chance to launch one extra combo attack, damage factor 200, right? They were very specific about it, but you also get one basic attack worth of rage. So before, and I didn't discover this, I want to say it's Wout Gaming that maybe discovered this, right? He essentially found out that whenever Lucia launches an extra attack, you also generated at least 86 extra rage, which is how much rage you get for a basic attack. So we kind of just assumed at the time that whenever you launch an extra combo attack, you're going to get 86 rage, right? And then because the skill even further specified it, we just assume combo attack equals extra rage. We'll get into that a little bit later. But that is unknown right now, in my opinion. Okay, so for combo attack, essentially the way it works is it functions a lot more like Smite damage because it also scales off of normal attack increase, right? So if you have a commander that gives 30% normal attack increase, not only will the white damage you 30% more damage, right? Which every turn, like you're doing 30% more white damage, but also the combo attack scales off of that. But the reason why combo is even better than Smite is because combo attacks also act like you're doing another basic attack, right? So if you look over here, where is this? Right here, number 1 down here. Combo attack damage is affected by bonuses to normal damage. We already covered that. Combo attack can trigger any effect triggered by basic attacks. For example, whenever this commander troops launches or is hit by a basic attack effect. So for example, Alex's instant proc, right? You have a 10% chance on every basic attack to essentially launch instant proc. So combo attacks not only kind of act like smite damage, but now they can give you more opportunities to trigger instant procs. They give you more opportunities to trigger heals if when you launch a basic attack, you get heals, right? A lot of the siege commanders have that. Or there's a couple where when you're hit by a basic attack, you have a chance to trigger like a skill damage resistance, right? I think Scipio's kit, like his third or fourth skill, essentially has that, right? So combo attack, not only does it kind of function like Smite in that it triggers off of normal damage, right? So when you're having stuff that's boosting normal damage, it's also going to boost your white damage or combo damage, but it also has the ability to actually start triggering more instant procs, which smite damage doesn't do and skill damage doesn't do, and also anything maybe healing, right? So all things being equal, combo attack will be better than smite, will be better than skill damage. It's like the number is all the same, all the percentages are the same, the percentage increase, all that, because combo just does more, right? Now, it's unknown whether combo attack actually triggers extra rage. We're going to find out really soon in a few days where we can test this. The reason why I say it's unknown was because we just assumed that combo attack triggered rage every time, right? Every time you do a basic attack, you get 86 rage. Wit Gaming found that like years ago now, right? But Luce's expertise actually specifically says this, right? So if the description, for example, in Arthur's skills doesn't say it, does that mean it's not triggering extra rage? We don't know, right? But also, you can read it this way, right? Combo attacks can trigger any effect triggered by basic attacks, right? Well, rage gain is one of the effects that's triggered by basic attacks. But the example they gave here is whenever this commander's troop launches or is hit by a basic attack, right? So does it have to say that for the combo attack to actually trigger that effect? Or is a rage kind of just like included in that? Because whenever you launch a basic attack, it actually does trigger 86 rage. So we actually don't know. Obviously, if every combo attack gives you 86 rage, this thing becomes even more broken. But even if it doesn't, right, just by the nature, even without the rage, combo attack, in my opinion, is better than smite, is better than skill damage, okay? It's just important to keep that in mind because right now, I don't think Arthur's kit is necessarily that good for combo attack. We'll get into a little bit when we get into his kit, but it's still like you know, the only thing we have right now other than Liu Che. Like, so for example, Liu Che's combo attack is actually better than Arthur's combo attack because essentially you could do it on every turn, and then there's no cooldown on it, right? So if you look on the skill, picture over here, right? This is actually from the video showing Arthur when he does a skill damage, right? It's just 1/2800 skill damage. When it's a combo damage, he's actually doing 2 combo attacks in the same turn, right? So we know you can actually do multiple combo attacks in the same turn, and it's actually essentially like just this almost divided by 2, but a little bit higher, right? I don't know if the reason why, it could be because there's some skill damage mitigation on the top, right? Whereas you don't have that same kind of combo or normal damage mitigation on the bottom. But regardless, you can see it's fairly close, and you're actually doing the same amount of damage, but divided by 2. Right? And this actually kind of leads to the last point for why I think combo attack is better. I made a video pretty long ago. It's by far the most exhausting video I ever made. I did 2 days of testing to come up with this. But I tested a lot of different theories to try to figure out how Sev wounds work. Okay, and it ended up there's like 2 things, and I still haven't seen anything that kind of makes the theory I had with how Sev wound works obsolete. So we're still going to go with it until I see proof otherwise. But the 2 things that actually affects your Sev wounds, and let's just quickly go over Sev wounds, right? So whenever you deal damage, a percentage of that damage is going to be slightly wounded, right? And then a percentage is going to be Sev wound. We're assuming there's no deaths. So just think slightly wounded or Sev wounds. The slightly wounded, they're just not on the field anymore, but they don't actually go to the hospital. The Sev wounds go to the hospital, and that's what actually costs you resources and speeds, right? So the 2 things that affect Sev wounds the most, the first one, the most important one, is actually the troop differential. So the bigger the troop differential count, right? So for example, if you have like 1,000 on one side and 10,000 on the other side, or 1,000 on one side and 20,000 on the other side, the bigger the troop differential, the higher the Sev wound percentage actually both sides takes. But if both sides taking the same the higher percentage, and you have one side with a lot more troops, right? Because part of how much damage you put out is directly correlated with how much troops you have. It doesn't really hurt them that much, but if you have very little troops, a much higher percentage of the damage you take, instead of being slightly wounded, it's going to be Sev wound, right? The other one, and this is the second most important, after the troop differential, is how many troops you have. The higher amount of troops you have, the lower the Sev wound percentage you take. The lower the Sev wound, the lower the amount of troops you have, basically the closer you get to sad facing, the higher percentage of that damage actually turns into Sev wound and not slightly wounded, right? Now this is important because on this screen here, right, the skill damage and the combo damage, right, let's just pretend they're doing the same amount of damage. You're doing the same amount of damage over the same turn, right? But if this is hitting twice, that means that because there's 2 hits, right? Let's just say they're both starting out at 20,000 troops, right? On this, you just drop from 20,000 to, let's just say like about 6,000, a little under 6,000, right? Whereas this one, technically, you're actually dropping from 20,000 to a little under 13,000, and then another hit actually takes place again. The second hit is going to be when the opponent's troop is lower, and also that troop differential is going to be bigger, so the potential to actually farm more Sev wounds will be a little bit higher, right? So that's kind of like another case for combo damage. And also, in my opinion, one of the reasons why when you look at the reports, Liu Che just seems to be doing a lot more Sev wounds, just because he has that extra combo attack. It's small, right? But it's essentially like a small attack that happens very frequently, and you're actually getting a lot more hits when the troop differential is bigger and they're at a lower troop count, which is why Liu Che, in my opinion, is also farming more Sev wounds, right? Also, if you think about what I just said, that's why Attila, and especially like Attila rallies, seem to work so well, because you're not doing big skill damage. You're literally just doing like consistent white damage. So Attila doesn't have high DPS, but when you're hitting someone, especially when they're weaker than you and there's a big troop differential and they get low, Attila is going to really, really farm a lot of Sev wounds, okay? Now, having said all of that, based on the kit, I think Arthur right now has much higher upside as a skill damage commander. 1, we just don't have another real combo damage commander to pair with Arthur, but 2, his expertise kind of leads to that, right? So if you look at his expertise here, there's a cooldown of 10 seconds if he's a primary and you're doing combo damage. there's no cooldown on the secondary. So basically, the way, at least reading this and how I think this works, right? You can actually trigger multiple combo attacks. So this thing can actually trigger like 4 times in 1 second, because we already talked about earlier. You can actually trigger a bunch of different combo attacks in the same turn, right? But no matter what, every turn it's only going to be 300 damage factor. And then if you do 300 damage factor, you have another 25% chance to do the next one. So essentially, another way to think about it is every turn to trigger the first one at 50%, then another one at 25%. You're just taking 50% multiplied by 25%. It'll come out to 12.5%, right? Or 1/8. So 1/8 of the time this triggers, you'll essentially be doing 600 damage factor. 50% of the time you'll be doing 300 damage factor, and then the other 50% of the time. Wait, let me take that back. Okay, let me take that back a little bit, okay? Because it's actually not that way. So 50% of the time you're just not going to be doing any extra attack. The other 50% you're going to be doing 300 damage factor. If that happens, right, you have a 12.5% chance for it to actually trigger twice and do 600 damage factor. Hopefully I made that a little bit clear. All right, but regardless, right, it's at most, usually for the most part, going to be 600 damage factor. And even if you get lucky where multiple basic attacks and combo attacks all stack on the same turn, right? So for example, you see on the screen here, I think the best pairing in the game in an artifact KVK, if you could put any 2 commanders together and make the best march in the game, I actually think it would be Arthur primary and LC secondary. LC's combo attack is different. It could essentially trigger every single turn, whereas Arthur's combo attack either has to trigger from the active skill, right, which you have to build 1,000 rage to do that, or this expertise, but if it triggers once, then you have a 10-second cooldown until it can trigger again, right? But if you do Arthur LC, just want to think the perfect scenario, right? His active skill goes off. So his active skill is Excalibur over here, right? You're launching 2 combo attacks, so that's 2 in 1 turn. A basic attack is a 3rd attack in that turn. Let's just say you get lucky, and then LC's combo attack also procs in that turn. That's 4, right? And then each one of those, let's just say you get really, like the best case scenario right now is you have 4 essentially basic attacks, right? Because combo attacks count as basic attack, each with a 50% chance to launch a combo attack, and then potentially to launch a second one. It's very, very unlikely that you'll actually do 3, even though 3 attacks off of this, even though theoretically it's possible, right? So let's just say best case scenario, you have 4 chances and they all proc, and then you also get really lucky and they all proc twice, right? That's at most like 2400 damage factor with a combo attack, right? Like that's really, really good, but like it's just the chances are so low, and there's a 10-second cooldown that I just don't see how often this could happen, right? If this cooldown was 5 seconds, it would be a game changer, but it's 10. So even though I think combo attack's better, it actually severely limits the upside of Arthur as a combo attack commander, right? Maybe in the future we get another combo commander that has some kind of better synergy. I could see it happening, but regardless, the reason why I think this is so good is just because, you know, anything paired with LC right now, like you can make a strong argument is probably the best march in the game, and no commander actually pairs better with LC right now than Arthur, if Arthur can be used as a combo attack commander. So if you can actually convert LC to a cab in an artifact KVK and run them as a secondary behind Arthur, that would be the best march in the game. Not necessarily even because they have the best synergy, but just because they're both so strong. Okay, well, let's just pretend we're not all doing artifact KVKs. Where do I think what pairing has the upside? I think initially a lot of people just thought Arthur would be a secondary behind behind Nevsky or Hua, right? Because you want the big single target skill damage increase commander in front, and then they're going to greatly increase the skill damage of Arthur as a secondary, right? I actually think the highest upside is going to be Joan, and kind of hate it, but Kane beat me to it first. The reason why is because every single time you launch an active skill or an instant proc, right? Actually, I think probably even direct damage, because direct damage, I think, I don't know if it actually counts as, let's just pretend it's not additional damage doesn't count. It's just active skills and instant procs, right? Joan, essentially every other skill cycle, she can fire 2 of her active skills. Every time she fires one of her active skills, right, it's 2,000 damage factor to 3 targets, we don't know if it's actually going to be to 3 targets or just to 1 target. But regardless, it'll be at least 1,000 damage factor, right? You have a 25% chance to do 1,000 damage factor each time. Initially, I didn't think that pairing was going to work because for anyone that's tried to run Joan with, say, like Genghis Khan, right? You're like, oh, well, you know, you just get each of them get 2 skill damage procs, right? Like you're essentially just gonna be firing active skills all the time. Once you actually put that to the test, you could even see it happening on the screen, right? If you're firing active skills too often, because to launch an active skill, the way it works is you hit the rage cap, there's a second of downtime, and then you fire the active skill, right? And then when this next commander goes, you're going to do another second of downtime and then fire another active skill. That 1 second of downtime actually drags it out too long. So while you're firing these active skills, the rage bar would just be stuck on full, and you actually won't be gaining range anymore, right? So I didn't think this could work that well because let's just say you were triggering this all the time. It could actually just kind of slow your rage gain, and overall you won't do as well. But after reading through this a few times, I realized that this troop, whenever their troop deals direct damage, you're actually going to be dealing additional damage. Additional damage is different than active skill. So 2 examples of additional damage right now is Minamoto and then Ragnar Prime, right? So if you look at Ragnar Prime, once you do your active skill, essentially it becomes like a bleed effect. Like the next 2 turns, you'll just automatically do that damage. Same thing with Minamoto, right? When you do your active skill, I think there's a 75% chance over the next 2 seconds to essentially do additional skill damage, but it's just like a bleed. I don't even think you need to be connected with the target, right? Because of that, you can actually be doing the additional damage while another active skill fires off in the same turn, and this actually becomes a lot more powerful, right? So you want to talk about the upside. Joan is doing a 3 target AoE, right? So when you do 3 target AoE, 2,000 damage factor, right? And you hit 3 targets, right? That's a 30% decrease, so it becomes 1,400 to 3 targets, right? Just add them together, that's 4,200 damage factor, right? Over 3 targets. If you hit 1 target with Huo at 2,700 compared to 4,200, just lower. The argument for Huo will be, okay, well, he's increasing skill damage a lot more, even though it's a lower damage factor without the skill damage increase, right? But when you factor in this expertise where every single direct damage or active skill, there's a 25% chance to do half of that damage, I think the upside of Joan outweighs either Nevsky or Arthur. So I had to pick, without testing it, theoretically the best Cav March. I would actually go with Joan Arthur first, and then if you're really hell bent on doing combo attack right now, it probably would be Arthur Philip. The reason why I wouldn't go that route is just because Philip is a lot more valuable somewhere else right now, either as a secondary to LC or a secondary to ZL, right? Because he needs a March, he needs the health, and he actually synergizes very well with ZL and his Rage Engine. Arthur Philip will probably work pretty well, but is it going to work that much better than Joan Arthur, or even better? I don't think so, just because this cooldown for this expertise is really limiting the upside of Arthur as a combo attack commander, in my opinion. Okay, so all that being said, excited to actually see this thing in action. All of this is theory crafting until we see the commanders in action. But I think I'm pretty confident that if you could do Artifact, if I'm doing Dark Altar, which I think you could do that in Orleans, you could do Artifact, right? I'm going to try running Arthur LC and just see how it does in Dark Altar, right? I think it will destroy people. It'll be disgusting. And then for Cav March, Joan Arthur, and then maybe Arthur Philip. But I actually think even though combo attack by itself is better than Smite and skill damage, I don't think the upside of Arthur as a combo attack damage commander is actually that high. I'm not going to go over his skills. You guys already read that. But if you guys haven't yet, again, please like and subscribe to the video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.